All right, so I have started recording, and before I pass it to Norma to introduce our amazing speaker who I just had the privilege to meet virtually the other day. So, silver lining, I guess, during these times is these events can happen and we can all come together. I just want to mention Dana, which translates as generosity. And it's basically just giving what you can. And it's only through the generous contributions of us and everyone of the community that Great Tree is able to exist and operate, and we're able to do these incredible events. So I'm going to post a PayPal link if you are able to offer Dana. And I'll just share a quick quote found on the Great Tree website about Dana. Dana practice is a path to and expression of the realization of interconnectedness. This essential gift from the heart is essential to the practice of compassion, empathy, and kindness. And that can be found on the Great Tree website under the giving subcategory up towards the top. And all the teachers, including Myoren or Liliane, just offer their services and their knowledge as a gift. And so Dana is a way to reciprocate that and keep that good karma and that good energy moving. So thanks again, everyone, for being here. And I'm going to pass it to Norma.
Hi, everyone. I am just absolutely delighted and honored to introduce Liliane. And she probably doesn't need any introduction to any of you, but I'm going to do it anyway. During a weekend retreat at Great Tree years ago, she helped to forever change my way of thinking about food choices, food preparation, and cooking. We had a blast. All weekend, all we did was cook and eat. Liliane teaches and practices Chinese medicine in France and the US. She published a book on Chinese medicine titled in English, Chinese Medicine Treasures for Today's World. I won't attempt to give you the title in French. I'll let her do that. She also co-teaches with her sweet husband, Didier, on food therapy. Liliane and Chef Didier lived in Asheville for 6 years and had a restaurant in their home on West Chestnut Street. Many wonderful hours were spent taking classes, eating inside their home and on their delightful front porch. I continue to keep and use the recipes I got from them. Liliane is going to lead a 30-minute guided meditation on the energy of the season, followed by a presentation on Chinese medicine, understanding of the lung. And then we'll have the opportunity for a question and answer time, and we'll bring you all back for that. So thank you, Liliane, for being here and for honoring us with your presence.
Thank you. I mean, I'm honored to be there. So thank you, and to see everyone. I mean, virtually, but it's quite a gift. It's quite a gift, and that's makes me appreciate, the gift of this time through Zoom. So, all right. So, are you all ready? Should we go? Okay. So, I'm going to guide you through a short meditation, a 30-minute meditation about. And what I'd like you to do first is to find a comfortable position. And the theme of this meditation is going to be lung, the lung and the lung energy. And I'm going to explain why and how slowly as we go. So, first of all, choose a comfortable position. Check areas of tension, in particular the neck, shoulders, jaws, and all the common areas of tension that are specific to everyone, but those are basic. Then I would like you to bring your attention to your lower back and the kidney area. Round it up slightly. Notice the curve. It's often accentuated, and that contributes to lower back pain, as well as kidney exhaustion, adrenal exhaustion in our modern jargon. Bring your attention to your chest and the area of the lung, the area of the breath. This is where we are going to put our attention today and look at how ancient people, ancient Taoists, looked at the lung. So take a moment to really feel the lung in your chest, the space they occupy. Most of the time, our organs do their work silently, without our attention, without our thanks. And so for a moment, just bring the attention to your chest. In Chinese medicine, it is said that lung is the governor of qi. I prefer the word musician of qi, of energy, of breath. It's the rhythm of our life. In breath, out breath. A 2-beat basic measure, just like music, which creates the sound of our life. Feel that in breath, out breath, that basic rhythm of your life. In Chinese medicine, it is said that lung is metal energy. That is strange, fairly strange. So we'll come back to that later. For now, just take in the words. Lung, metal, energy. The color associated with it is white. Color of clouds, of snow, of foam. Its season is autumn. The descending movement of autumn. The letting go. The nakedness that comes with autumn. Its direction is the west. Ancient Taoists did not consider the lung to be just an organ. They associated the large intestine with it, the colon, and therefore abdominal breathing. Feel that rhythm between the chest and the abdomen. It also includes the nose, the point of contact with the breath. It also includes the skin, because we breathe through our skin. Lung, therefore, is a space, an exchange between inside and outside. Constantly in and out, taking in, giving, exchanging. So I invite you for a moment together to travel in that space inside the body created by the lung, from the north of our head, of our feet, to the south of our head, from the east of our left arm to the west of our right arm. Make your chest bigger. Feel the breath at the entrance of your nostrils and feel the air like a caress all over your skin, breathing. Feel how comfortable and protective that space is, no matter the suffering, no matter areas of pain. When it rains, our organs are safe and protected. That inside space, inner space of the breath belongs to us, creates our space of life. In Qigong, here is a definition of the breath, of one type of breath. Long, from chest to abdomen, or even to the feet. Silent, soft, and strong like a silk thread. One day, long ago, the earth was contracted into a compact ball from the breath of the universe. And the earth itself took a deep breath, out breath, that released the atmosphere, the protective space in which we live, and the skin of the universe, the ozone layer. Just like our intestines are connected to our lung, the topsoil, the humus of the earth, also releases the abdominal air that we breathe and that feeds us, feeds the trees, feeds the grass, feeds the ants, the worms, the elephants, the flowers. When the earth breathes, everyone is fed, everyone can breathe. So let's take a moment to marvel at the fact that from the beginning of time, we breathe in unison from that very first moment in a space created for us. The earth, human beings, animals, plants, stones, we all breathe to the same rhythm. Explore that space. And we're going to explore two basic breaths, two basic spirals of breathing between the drum of our chest and that of our abdomen. Those can be very useful to practice in our everyday life. The first one is called natural breathing. Take a deep, slow, silent breath and let it fill your abdomen like you would fill a balloon with your breath. You inhale and the abdomen gets bigger. Don't force it. If you do not have enough strength, for whatever reason, just visualize the breath filling your abdomen. Don't force anything. Let the abdomen relax with the fullness of your breath. Then gently exhale and let the balloon deflate itself and feel the skin of your abdomen, the space of your abdomen contract and come closer to your lower back. Breathe in, fill up your abdomen. Breathe out and send your breath toward your toes. Downward. Do it a few times at your own rhythm. This natural breathing is the breath of the relaxed baby, the breath of relaxation. It is what we call, with our Chinese jargon, a yin type of breath, meaning it's a breath that can calm an agitated mind, a breath that can help us fall back asleep in the middle of the night during an episode of insomnia. It's a breath that can calm anxiety. That's a breath that can help us enter into a deeper, relaxed, meditative breath state. Practice it a few times. Let your abdomen fill up with your breath. empty itself with the out breath, going downward. Breathe in, breathe out. We're going to come now to a second type of breathing called reversed breathing. This time, when you inhale, contract your abdomen, reducing the space and bringing the wall of the abdomen toward the back. It may seem a little bit counterintuitive at the beginning. That's the breath of the baby that cries with all her strength. Exhale and relax the abdomen, letting it spread like a balloon full of water. Breathe in, contract. Breathe out, relax the abdomen. Again, don't force. In, out. In, out, at your rhythm, at your speed. Observe how this breath will tend to go upward as you inhale and bring the wall of the abdomen toward the back. It tends to send the energy of the breath upward along the spine. This breath is a more yang type of breath, more dynamic. It's the breath to use to give ourselves energy if we are tired, to counteract depression as it slowly supports the upward movement of the spine. It's actually the way most of us breathe when we are in a hurry, stressed. However, unconsciously, when we do that, we only do half of the breath. We breathe in, and we may even hyperventilate, and we forget the patience needed to bring the breath back into the abdomen. That bringing back of the breath to the abdomen is the way we can replenish our reserves, our water tables. Migraines, hypertension, anxiety, burnout are often associated with that incomplete breathing cycle, like a discordant music that exhausts the kidneys and the lower back. So one more time, breathe in. Send the energy upward, contract the abdomen, and breathe out. Let the water, the flow, come back to the abdomen and fill it up. These are two basic notes of the melody of our life that we can use to help us to become aware of what's going on and to support what we want to do. If we want to combat fatigue or if we want to relax. Feel also how the breath is defining a space inside and outside of you, bigger and bigger. A physical space first, with the skin as a barrier, and then an emotional space, a kind of boundaries of protection, and a psychic space, the one that makes us aware of the stair in our back. We have a friend in our breath, all along in our lung. And very often we simply forget that they're there, that it's there, ready to help us. We forget that the word spirit etymologically means breath. There is a tradition in Taoist tradition of a meditation in which we thank our organs, visualize their color. So for the lung, it's white. And we thank them for their hard work, for being our companions on our journey. Mostly what we need to do is take care of the temple of our breath and let it be. So for a couple of minutes, just be with your lung, smile. That's the meditation of the inner smile. To the lung, the skin, the nose, the breath. Take your time. Meanwhile, I will prepare to go into the more mental space of the lung with Chinese medicine and get everything ready. And just when you're ready, come back. Okay, is everybody's back? Um, I just want to make sure that you can see on the screen. Can everybody see? Maybe just Trey, can you tell me whether it's working?
Yes, I can see.
Okay. All right. So let me know if there is any problem. Otherwise, I'll just get started. Okay. So we're going to go, like I said, into a bit more of a mental space. And let me preface this by telling you that I've been doing work on the lung and the 5 energies of Chinese medicine. And I hope I can get you as excited as I am, because it's so beautiful and so incredible. I keep finding more and more, and just following the guidance of ancient Taoists. It's not like I making up anything, but just following what they say. And it opens up such a universe, an incredible view. So I hope I can convey it, because it's not always easy with words. And as you know, I know you're all into Zazen and meditation, so you know the limitation of words. So I realized also I had a video I wanted to play while we were doing the meditation. It was this one, but I didn't do it, so it doesn't matter. We're going to go to the next image. All right, so like I mentioned in the meditation, in Chinese medicine, Lang is called metal energy. The season is autumn. The associated organ is the colon. And I put it in bold because, I guess with our tendency to look at noble organs, somehow lung and colon, but the colon is really important and is part of the lung. The color is white, and the direction is west and northwest. This is what any student of Chinese medicine will learn going to school. What we learn also is that the movement of the lung is descending and inward, that its function is to govern qi. I prefer to say musician of qi, which is the word I used in the meditation. Govern is a little bit too political, maybe, to my taste. And to me, qi, which is energy, and here too, I'm not going to go into that, it would take too long, but qi can be translated in so many different ways. Breath would be one, air would be one, oxygen would be one, energy would be one. It's charisma would be one, electromagnetism would be one. So it's a very big word. And so the function of the lung is big because it governs, it plays the music of the qi. It was also said that the lung provides protection and immunity, which is called wei qi, protective qi. So that means, of course, that these days, when we are worried about immunity, the lung, and obviously with the coronavirus in particular, is the seat of our immunity, is the first line of our immunity and needs to be strong. To each organ, there is an emotion associated, and in the case of the lung, it's sadness, which we could translate as negative emotion, But I think it's more than that, and we'll come back to that. But let's say that sadness that is seated in the lung and doesn't move can hurt the lung. It is also said that it is the residence of the Po, which we translate as corporeal soul, which is kind of strange for us Westerners, the soul of the body. We tend to separate them, and the lung is the organ that is the seat of the corporeal soul, the soul of the body. So here too, we'll come back to all of that, and hopefully I can help you make sense of all of that. The color white is often used in like in paintings like this one to refer to the lung, mountain and clouds, meaning that one definition of the lung also, it is that it's a superior reservoir of water. So basically what that means, if we look at an ecology of the body, it's the clouds and the rain of our body. So one function of the lung is to diffuse the water of that upper reservoir to our skin and to everywhere in our body, to the skin of our organs. So that's an important function. That's why the clouds are chosen as an image. And actually, I chose a picture here of one of my friends, and you see here, those are important points of the lung. And she's doing a Qigong movement where you bring energy to that area of the lung, and it is called cloud gate. So that's the first acupuncture point that opens the meridian of the lung. That's called cloud gate. So in Chinese, it's on the side here. It's called Yunmen, cloud gate. So let's come back also to metal energy, because it's rather mysterious. And at the beginning, when I was in school, I often asked my teachers to explain why in the world metal energy was associated with the lung. And they would answer things like, well, it's our protection. That's, like an armor. And I didn't think that it was, I knew it was not what it was about, because that metaphor doesn't explain why lung is called metal energy. So the haha moment for me came during a walk in the forest, which made me understand, because obviously we have the descending movement of the lung through the leaves, right? And then as we walk, we realize that the new soil, from the leaves is humid and crisp. And like a child, we can also marvel at the fact that every year leaves fall, and yet they don't become feet deep. Every year the same phenomenon happens, but the leaves disappear. They are composted, right? So, and at the same time, what happens when we walk in the forest, we realize that this wonderful smell of the smell of leaves happening at the, we have the composting, which is going to create the future earth, the mantle of the earth. So that's a compacting movement. On the other hand, gas, air, and it creates the new air as well. So I realized that what the Taoists did, if we compare, for example, to Ayurveda, where lung is associated to air, which speaks to us more easily, but the Taoists looked at that movement of compaction, of hardening, of contraction. That's what they call metal energy, because eventually the humus is going to become the new earth, first the topsoil and the crust, and then the stones and minerals in the earth. So that's where metal comes from, is from the compaction of the earth. So the Taoists, when they refer to metal, they refer to that movement of compaction that creates matter on one hand and air on the other hand, oxygen. It releases all the gases that create the air that we breathe. So they look at the energetic movement that creates air, not at the element of air itself. So then I wondered, well, okay, so what is metal exactly? And if you look at the dictionary, it tells you it's a conductor of electricity and heat, generally malleable and ductile. I don't know if you say ductile or ductile, but let's say ductile. And that its property is to reflect light, what's called high reflectivity, right? And so it plays an important part in our civilization, very certainly. And let's just keep that in mind for a moment. Conductor of electricity and heat, malleable and ductile, and reflecting light. The next thing that we can notice is that all human civilizations have been described by the metal they used. Stone Age. Stones are where minerals come from. Stone, it's a form of mineralization of the earth. So first civilization, Stone Age, Copper Age, Bronze Age, Iron Age, in which definitely we are. And even when we refer to a golden future or past civilization that we would have forgotten, as Golden Age. So you see that every time we refer to metal, which is interesting, isn't it? So before I go to that, yes, yeah. So, and then when we go a little bit deeper, we realize that we carry iron in our blood, that it's our hemoglobin. And in that little chemical picture here, you see this structure, which is called porphyrin in chemical terms, but it's not important. And inside we have an atom of iron. And that's what gives the red of our blood, right? And so here is a quote from Michael Denton, a microbiologist, who said, "Of all metals, none is as essential to life as iron. Without the iron atom, there would be no life, no metal to make hemoglobin, nor to control the reactivity of oxygen. Intriguing and close relationship between life and iron. Of course, it gives the red of our blood, of our heart, and we can say that red is really the color of all mammals, birds, fish, and humans. We are the same blood family. So, well, we're not going to stop just at chemistry and theoretical marvels. However, I think that it's an interesting point of reflection, as you will see, that really mammals, birds, fish, we all have red blood. We are the same family. So let's just keep that in mind. In my opinion, it's a very good argument to be vegetarian too. We're not supposed to eat our family. We're not supposed to be cannibals, all right? But let's continue. If we look, on the other hand, at chlorophyll, and where you have also another metal, magnesium, which is a metal. And look, we have the same structure. You see, porphyrin, same structure, with the difference that inside, instead of an iron of iron, an atom of iron, we have an atom of magnesium. So we can say, it's not just we say, what is that the chlorophyll is the blood of the vegetal world. The green color is, of course, the complementary color, the opposite of red color on the color wheel. Red and green balance one another. In Chinese medicine, green corresponds to liver energy, but we'll keep that for another time. One of the functions of magnesium is to relax muscles and lung. So for example, in emergency treatments, when people suffer from an asthma attack or very strong anxiety attack, they actually get, nowadays, sometimes they get injections of magnesium. So it's considered an anti-stress metal. It's also a metal that supports bowel movement, the abdomen that we saw in our breathing. So we can say that iron corresponds to the dynamic breath, magnesium more to the natural breath that we saw. And both need to be balanced, of course. So meaning that where we are really complementary is with the vegetal world, and of course mammals too, are all animals, the fish too, because they eat the algae and the seaweed, which are also rich in chlorophyll. So you see that there is this balance between those two metals inside of our body. So what we can get from all of this, and again, there's much more to go into, but that basically metal is what gives the form, the stability, the geometry of space, meaning that the topsoil without minerals would be blown away. Okay, and biophysicists actually talk about the Earth's atmosphere as the result of the exhalation of the first out breath of the Earth. So if you remember in the meditation, I guided you through that image of the compaction of the Earth. It's metal, metal, metal compaction. And that's what released the atmosphere, just like in the forest. And so the atmosphere, the air around the Earth is a result of the lung of the Earth and the metal movement of the Earth. We know also that metal is conductor of electricity. We saw that in the definition. And so in the Earth, of course, iron and minerals is what create the magnetism, the magnetic pole, for example. It's in the magma you have iron. So it's the deposits of iron in the Earth that give it its magnetic component. Iron is in our blood too, and oxygen is a slightly magnetic gas. So basically what that means is the earth is electromagnetic, of course, and we are also electromagnetic beings, just like the earth. And the more we breathe, the more we inhale, the more we exhale, and the more we make ourselves electromagnetic. So I know that the other day Tejo mentioned in her Dharma talk, some experiences that sometimes we have, very high intuition or immediate realization during periods of zazen. And if we want to look at it from a more mental space, of course, we make ourselves more electromagnetic, more intuitive. And that's why also I think during zazen, during sesshin, traditionally, or people who practiced meditation would choose chlorophyll and green foods, because this is the best way to make ourselves more receptive, more intuitive, and to become more subtle. If we eat our blood family of mammals or fish, we became much heavier. And we disconnect in a way from that cord of breath that is supposed to link us. Because whether it's magnesium or iron, notice that it's supposed to be in a very subtle form in our blood. It's not heavy deposits, okay? So it's in our blood. So that's with oxygen and iron, that's how we create that balance in our world. So basically, you see, with metal and our lung, we literally create, just like the earth created the space of life and the frontiers of the space of life, we do the same thing. You replicate with every breath the beginning of time, the beginning of the earth. We exhale from deep inhalation. And I think that's how we can understand that the lung is called the corporeal soul, because metals, and lung is metal energy, organize shape and space. They organize matter. Water does not organize matter. A fire does not organize matter. They have different roles, but they don't have that aspect of giving shape and creating space. So when we talk about immunity, for example, our immune system, basically we're talking about a space, whether it's a personal space or a collective space. So it is obvious, and I think you will probably come to the same conclusion if you haven't yet, that it's a bit unreal to talk about a personal immunity. We can do, of course, what we can to strengthen our immunity, and we're going to look at that. But basically, we are part of the immunity of the earth. And it's no wonder today that we have a pandemic that affects the lung, of course, because when we look at our big cities like Wuhan, where it started 10 million people, pollution, a city where people hadn't seen the sun in decades, at least 2 decades. So our breathing, our collective breathing, the collective metal is suffering, and of course, deforestation. So our metal energy, our lung energy is completely connected to the energy of the earth. We cannot decently even try to separate them. We have seen also, and here is the corporeal soul, that metal reflects light. So that means consciousness. And we can say that as human beings, we also reflect light through our consciousness. And the contraction and expansion of our breath, the compaction and release, is a universal breath, the breath of life, what is called also yin and yang. Breathing beings, the clouds of our lungs mirror the clouds of the earth. So I will leave that. There's really so much to deepen, and mentally it's not as exciting as when we realize it through experience in our body. And it's really a marvel. The more I, like I said, the more I follow that model of Chinese medicine, and the more I'm astonished at the science and knowledge that is encompassed in it. It's, you know, emotional, it's spiritual, it's physical. So just a word here briefly on the 5 energies. We just looked at the energy of lung, which is metal energy. And you see that metal energy comes from the earth, right? And gives birth to water energy. We could say oxygen gives birth to water. Look also how fire, there is what is called a control cycle here. Fire, which is the heart, controls metal, okay? Just take my word for it for a moment if you don't know that model, because we're going to come to some very practical conclusions or practical deductions of all that we saw, okay? So just keep in mind the fire of the heart, metal of the lung, the earth, okay? And also look at how metal is in cooperation with wood, which is the trees and vegetables, the green color again. So iron is here, metal, green is here. So when we want to control anger, which is more of a liver energy, we breathe deeply. We call upon our metal energy. So practical applications, first of all, there's breathing. I just gave you 2 simple practices of the breath, and of course there are many more. If you practice yoga, you know that pranayama is infinite, and that there are many types of breath, but the 2 that we saw are the 2 basic ones. So we saw the natural breath, in which we make the abdomen bigger when we inhale and contract it when we exhale. Then we saw the reversed breathing. And like I said, there's a yin one. So if you're awake in the middle of the night, a good breath to practice is the yin breath, the natural breathing and sending the energy into the feet. If you want more energy, it's the good breath to practice will be the reversed breathing and sending the energy more toward upward, more toward the head. But again, which both breaths, we need to make sure we come back to the abdomen. Otherwise, we risk blocking energy in the head, and we could suffer from migraines, headache, agitation, you know. So it's always, and of course we're impatient, and I invite you to notice your breath, to stop, you know, just like Thich Nhat Hanh invites us to do in the middle of an action, and check where your breath is, where you know, like if you're stressed, stop a moment and check where you hold your breath and where it is stuck. And when we're in a rush, we're in a hurry, we breathe in, we breathe in, we breathe in, and we do the reverse breathing. But like I said, we forget to bring it back to its home, which is the abdomen. All right. So you can see also that in all practices, usually whether it's yoga or Qigong, what slowly is encouraged, very gently, is a longer exhalation. What we do with exhalation is really the phase of creating the co-creation of life, the creating of a bigger space. We inhale and we give back a transformed breath. So inhalation is the taking in of heaven energy, and exhalation, an act of earth creation, an act of creating space, the space of our life. So it's of course the first place to start to create strong immunity, to gently exhale and make our exhalation bigger, wider, stronger. And of course, we cannot separate the two phases, because the deeper we inhale and the more we contract, just like the earth that was contracted into a ball, okay, was able to exhale a big atmosphere. So we can contract more and accentuate the contraction to have a stronger exhalation. But all of that always with gentleness, slowly at our own pace, without force. At the end of this presentation, I'd like to demonstrate something that I have noticed along the years with people when either in Qigong or in consultation, when we say, take a deep breath. So here is a Qigong movement to nourish lung. And also you see, you breathe in, the hands go upward, you turn the hands, you bring back the energy toward yourself, contracting. And look, here is a contraction by raising the shoulders and contracting the shoulders, getting the face to go up slightly, and then pushing and exhaling slowly outward. That's the basic movement of Qigong for lung, based on that practice of inhalation and exhalation. And of course, this is a basic movement, the last one, of defense, of creating a Wei Qi, a protective space around us. Singing is one thing we can do to support our immune system, our throat, and exhaling, which of course birds know that, and coyotes know that. And have you noticed how dogs also, when they make that sound, when they raise their head, they open their throat, okay, just like this bird here. So it opens the thyroid, it stimulates the thymus, and of course it's great for the spirit. So I used to have a teacher who told us all the time, sing, sing, sing. And I thought for years that it was cute that he was saying that, until finally I understood that it was not just cute. He really meant that singing is one of the best ways to stimulate our lymphatic system, to free our throat, free our nose, and to bring vibration, and to open our lung, to strengthen the capacity of our lung. Laughter is another really great one. And I recommend Norman Cousin's book, How I Healed Myself Through Laughter. He had other things too, but certainly he made himself a program of laughter. And if you remember when I showed you the 5 energies, the heart is in control of the lung. So we can say that laughter, which comes from the heart, is a way to soothe the lung and again, to make the lung vibrate. So keeping a sense of humor, especially these days, is very helpful for immunity. And as you can see, it's both, we can say it's emotional, but it's very practical. It's not just an image. It's inscribed in our anatomy. Okay, the metal and the fire of the laughter, all of that plays a part. Another thing that we can easily deduct is that, of course, minerals, metals are important to strengthen our immune system and to make ourselves more resistant. Iron, calcium, magnesium, zinc. So we can say that today there's a lot of anemia, for example, but we can say that both human bodies and the body of the earth are getting demineralized. They're getting empty of minerals. So you probably have heard on the news or in magazine that zinc is good for immunity. However, the limitation of thinking that way is, yes, zinc is very helpful. And obviously, if you are deficient, it is helpful to have a supplement. However, zinc is not any more important than iron or than calcium or than magnesium. So what that means, we do have to come back to the immunity of the earth through our gardening, through the care we give the earth, because we cannot separate the minerals of the earth from the ones that are in our body. So if the soil is demineralized, we lack minerals as well. And many of us today are suffering from on the earth from that lack. So for example, iodine is really a missing ingredient because the soil is empty of iodine. So it's not just supplements that we need to look at, but of course our food also. We know also in the meditation, I told you lung controls the skin. So there too, you can conjugate that with your understanding and liking, meaning, first of all, skin is a good diagnosis of our immune system because skin absorbs as well as detoxifies. It does both. So skin is as important as what we put in our mouth. Okay. The ozone layer, I've talked about that already. We can say that the vegetation is the mucus membranes of the earth. The topsoil corresponds to the intestine and the intestinal flora, the colon of our earth. And pesticides are the antibiotics of the earth. So they do as much damage to the soil as antibiotics do to our intestines as well. So taking care of our skin, okay, brushing the skin, dry brushing, wet brushing, all of that, meaning taking care of our skin is the biggest membrane, the biggest organ of our lungs, so of our body. So taking care of it is a way to reinforce our immunity. So let me give you, because I know we're not going to have that much time, so I'd like to give you the basic kit of lung basic care, because right now everybody is talking about immunity. What we need to do is avoid mucus forming foods, because lungs obviously do not like mucus and always try to release it. What are mucus forming foods? Sugar, alcohol, dairy, meat, white flour, gluten, yeast, processed food. The good news is that it's good for lung and it's good for all the other organs. Thank God we don't have to change for each organ. What we need to include for strong immunity is high fiber foods. We saw green, magnesium foods, the one that nourish our blood as well. So, and contrary to what we think, there are many foods that are rich in iron, many vegetables. For example, dulse is a seaweed that's very rich in iron. Greens also have iron. Nuts have iron. Seeds have iron. So it's not just meat, which is actually difficult to digest. And the big problem with meat, of course, is that it does not have fiber. So it tends to stagnate in the intestine. So if you want to do an immunity strengthening diet, not a fast, but a diet for 2-3 weeks, just do that and you're going to help the lungs. The high magnesium foods, greens, nuts, and seeds. We say in Chinese medicine also that dryness is a pathogen of the lung. So meaning that humidify is a long-term care, right? So what we need is foods that like soups, mushrooms, green vegetables, slow cooking with sea vegetables. Oh, sorry, I left the French word algue, sea vegetables, to rehydrate our body. Avoid meat, cheese, coffee, diuretics in general that make us lose water, too much sodium, and a few plants that are good for the lungs are sesame seeds because they humidify the lung, goji, nettle, schisandra, American ginseng, and pear. Pear is actually, the skin of the pear is actually used as a remedy in Chinese medicine. Lung opens to the nose. So here too, very underestimated organ. And I'm not going to go into that, but that's one of my of the things I try to teach every time I teach about the lung, which is take care of your sinuses, take care of your nose. The brain uses 20% of our oxygen, and the sniff test, is used, which is a test where you are asked to identify 10 smells. Is a test that is used as a marker, as a possible symptom of Alzheimer. It doesn't mean that it's the case every time. So, for example, we saw that loss of smell is one of the side effects or of the things that seems to happen with the COVID-19. And I mean, I don't want to be a bad omen. Hopefully it will just move and come back. But certainly it calls for attention to neurological problems that could come later. So what that means, the good news, is that taking care of our nose, of our sinuses, either through doing the nose wash, or using eucalyptus, for example, as a essential oil. One of my favorite is peppermint. I think actually I prefer it even to eucalyptus personally, because peppermint enables you, if you just breathe it regularly, to detoxify the mucus of the nose, the mucous membranes of the nose, but will also open and help dissolve any type of calcification in the nose. So, but of course, if you notice you have a nasal voice or you have sinus problems on a regular basis, definitely the body is calling for attention, and your lung is calling for attention, because lung energy begins in the nose. And as you know, very often when we have a sinus infection, what we fear is that it will fall onto our lung. So we need to protect our nose first. Intestinal health is immensely important. So what I love again with Chinese medicine is that modern medicine has also corroborated that 70 to 85% of our immune cells are located in our intestinal tract. So of course, probiotics, and you've heard the term, the second brain, because there is the same tissue in our intestine as there is in our brain, the same membrane tissue, and it comes from the same embryological time. Okay, so what is really good, of course, for the health of the intestines is probiotics. So I recommend raw sauerkraut, meaning if it's not raw, then there's no more enzyme. So it's good to the taste, but it won't restore the intestinal flora. Kimchi, which is from South Korea and is a great food, very great immunostimulant food. Pickles, Japanese pickles, fermented foods in general, fermented vegetables, again, raw, not pasteurized, because otherwise they lose their enzyme and the probiotics that are good for the intestinal tract. So that's especially important after taking antibiotics. So many people suffer from intestinal problems after rounds of antibiotics. I can tell you, it comes like a leitmotif again and again and again. So, and I don't recommend yogurt, because yogurt does come from milk, so it's not so good for the lung. But I would recommend raw sauerkraut and kimchi, and you can have different types of kimchi, mild, medium, medium spice, or very spicy. Didier and I right now are on a kimchi cure. I just love it. So, and there's a really good book on kimchi that you could check out by a doctor, and she attributes the good health of South Koreans to their regular consumption of kimchi. We could say kimchi is kind of a fun and sophisticated way, or sophisticated sauerkraut. Sauerkraut after kimchi seems a little bit boring. It's great, but it's just, there's one type. When kimchi, you can vary the ways of making kimchi endlessly. We can even use fruit, and it's great. So I recommend it for intestinal health. Allies of the lung, it's anything that smells, so spicy, pungent taste. So you're going to find radish, turnip, aromatic herbs, like the ones we use, to dissolve sinuses, like thyme, cumin, cardamom, fennel, ginger, rosemary, cinnamon. All these mild spices are great allies of the lung, because they help to dissolve phlegm. Green leafy vegetables are great. Humidifying foods, we talked about that, and the ones rich in fiber, so flax, hemp, sesame seeds, pears, apples, nuts, prunes. And anything that is earth and root vegetables, like the autumn, like that comes in the autumn and in the winter. So carrots, beets, winter squash, pumpkin, sweet potato they grow in this season for a reason. They are allies of our lung. You want to avoid, on the other hand, tropical fruit, sugar, all things that weaken the immune system, and things that are too cooling to the system. Tropical fruit, their role is to make people cool in hot weather. So they're not the allies of our immunity in the fall and in winter. So I'd like to say a few words also about emotions and space. Like I told you, the emotion that is associated with the lung is sadness. But I'd like to modify that a little bit, because I think sometimes we don't really understand what it means. Because there's a word that I like with fall is nostalgia. Basically, I think we all carry in us the nostalgia of the fact that we came, the fall, the autumn, there is matter, coming into form, coming into shape. And we all carry the memory of the light, of where we come from. And in that descent to life, through the birth canal, that descent into shape, into form, there is a nostalgia of what we leave behind. And so in the fall, there's the beauty, a nostalgic, poignant beauty of the leaves that are falling. And of course, it's an invitation to come to that deep sense of life. So there's a beauty to it. So it's that paradoxical energy, just like autumn, just like in breath and out breath. There's this nostalgia and sadness, and at the same time, this feeling of beauty and being filled by beauty. So autumn is really a season that invites us to reflect upon letting go, upon death, where we came from, and that reflection of light, of metal, that we continue to reflect, and where we come from. And so the breath is the connection between life and death, between coming to earth and leaving earth. So there are many emotions that are linked to the lung, and the sadness can take a pathological form when it's the weight that makes us feel heavy, and the weight that feels like a burden on our shoulders, and that prevents us from breathing. But the natural sadness that comes when we lose someone dear to us, when we deal as human beings with impermanence. But within that, within the breath, this is also when we can touch the permanence of breath beyond us. So those two aspects are there in autumn. And then the lung is also our vital space, our immune space. So there's strongly a sense of territory via the lung. So whenever we invade or we feel invaded, whether it's emotionally or physically, there's a weakening of the lung. So political invasion, for example, of course, will also weaken the immune system of the people. And when we look at stories, history of epidemics, war and invasions were most often part of the landscape. All right. And of course, abuse, being abusive or being abused. And so one of the diseases associated with lung is a sense of victimization, when we feel that we are the victims of life, because there is a nostalgia of coming to earth, but of course realization or enlightenment or whatever word we choose, whether it's a moment or whether it's longer, is also when through the breath we realize we are immortals. So and we don't feel victims anymore. We are co-creators of our space of life with our breath and out breath. And then we become fully the inhabitants of our breathing space. These are difficult things to say in words. We touch once in a while, we touch upon that when there's a beautiful scenery or a moment of love or even an intense moment of suffering. And so the season of autumn carries that sadness, nostalgia, the reality of suffering, the reality of letting go. It's a season of letting go. It's a season of sorting out, and the trees and vegetation guide us because they retain what is essential, the sap of the tree that goes deep inside, letting go of the leaves, letting go of the beauty of the appearance for a while, right? And so it's a time for us to come back to what is essential as well, life and death. So it's a good time to let go of what we don't need, whether it's objects, emotions, habits. And in Chinese medicine and in Taoist tradition, they also say, and there are many traditions that say the same thing, that is a season to honor our ancestors, because through the breath we are linked to them, to the big breath of life. And it is also said that autumn is the time, the season, when the veil between the living and the dead is the thinnest. When we are the closest to the realm of the dead. So it's a good time to honor our ancestors, to reflect about our family heritage, to heal whatever needs to be healed, and to develop gratefulness for their suffering and for their mistakes, because we also make mistakes. We also experience suffering, and we are part of the same breath of life. So all of that is part of season changes, and that's what autumn brings. It also brings us the knowledge that later, further down the line, there will be winter and there will be spring. So it's that letting go, that deep acceptance. And basically, the letting go is being with our breath and not being in the way of our breathing. And what we have to do is take care of our lung, make sure that the breath flows easily. So foods, habits that will support the health of our lungs. When we damage our lung, we damage that vital space. That's our gift. That's our given birthright, and we spoil it. Again, it's not about judgment, it's not about harshness, because it's a very common experience of all beings on this earth, and of our earth too, suffering just like we are. And the healing will come through us and through our earth. So we can understand then what corporeal soul means for the lung, and why lung is the seat of the corporeal soul. We can say that our breath is our GPS, our inspiration, our direct line between heaven and earth energy through iron and oxygen that we recreate moment by moment. The fact that we make ourselves more electromagnetic through deep breathing, and that our human role, the one that we have such a hard time learning, is to let breathing be. Spirit means breath. So I think that's personally what I offer. I don't know if that will speak to you, but to me, the word Qi in Chinese is similar to Buddha nature, God nature, great spirit, soul, all those words that are not enough to really say what we're trying to say, trying to express what we feel, what we know, what we touch once in a while, and that we are trying to make more stable, more metallic, the flexibility, the reflectiveness of metal in us, strength, and malleable at the same time. So voila, this is my sharing about lung energy, and I hope that it motivates you or makes you curious to know more, because for me, if I had to summarize with one word what I feel the most when I study, when I follow, and I don't even like the word Chinese medicine in a way, because certainly I'm grateful that it came through Chinese medicine, but I don't think it's limited. And today in China, they don't have any more knowledge of this than we do. But if we go back to ancient times, to Taoist times, to the deep, to the writings, sacred writings of old, that is where we find that knowledge. And the number one feeling for me is marvel, just wonder, and at what we can discover and how we can find help at all levels, physical, emotional, spiritual. And that's where we need to turn. Everything else will be necessarily temporal. For example, right now we're looking for a vaccine for the virus. Okay, so let's say we agree with the virus, with the vaccine. Let's say we get the vaccine. And what about next time? There will be another virus, the same thing. So we need to heal, all of us, the earth, take care of our lung, of our forests. And we cannot possibly expect to have a strong human immune system as long as animals, plants, and the earth don't have one. We're all together. And if we look at that knowledge, we find guidance as to what to eat, as to which way to live, which practices of breath to do, about zazen and meditation. So these are tools of guidance. And when we are in difficult times, when we are lost, this is the only place we can turn to find real strength, inner strength. Thank you. All right, so I'm coming back on your screen, I believe. And we have a little bit of time for questions. If you wish to ask questions, or if you wish, or if you want, I don't know what term to use. So if you want to share anything, or, that with the group.
Liliane, this is Norma,
Hi, Norma.
and I just cannot thank you enough for wonderful presentation. I have so much more understanding, and I haven't thought about the reverse breath, which is really wonderful to think about. And when COVID started, I, who never had a digestive problem, was having problems eating. And I remember an acupuncturist once saying that she had some clients who took a little apple cider vinegar before eating. And I tried a little of that and didn't like it that much, but I started eating sauerkraut.
Mm.
I have sauerkraut before almost every meal except breakfast, and it works. And so to hear you mention that, it just kind of helped me get better understanding of what's happening. And your guided meditation was just so beautiful. So thank you, thank you, thank you so much. I hope you do some more teaching for us.
Well, thank you, Norma. Thank you for that sharing and that experience. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
I'll speak. Some of the common things that walk, and I'm wondering what, and green, like matcha.
Yeah. You know, there's a lot I did not mention. You know, there's so much more that could be mentioned. So turmeric, to me, I could have put it in the same category. It's one of the spices. You know, all of those spices, they have components that are good for digestion, and they all have a characteristic, which is they're used to dissolve phlegm and mucus. Plus, turmeric is also a great antiviral. So yes, absolutely. Green tea is good for the same reason, meaning that it will help to dissolve phlegm. However, for some people, it might be too acidic on an empty stomach and might be better to use after a meal, just to help digestion. Okay. So depending on, again, in my experience, usually when people get older, they have more of a hard time to drink green tea on an empty stomach, for example. So that's one thing to consider. Otherwise, yes, it is good. However, don't forget also that green tea, black tea, coffee, they're all diuretics. So that means they can, in excess. And that's something that in our Western minds, we have a hard time with. If something is good, a lot is better, So a little bit is good, but not too much, because first of all, it's a stimulant. And also it is diuretic. So you don't want to pee out all your reserves of water. And the lungs are the upper reservoir of water. So all of that in moderation. However, they're great to help dissolve phlegm that can obstruct the lung. And in terms of coconut, I'm changing a bit on that, because now I guess one thing I'm learning with Chinese medicine, it's so much, to me, is more like ecological medicine. It's like now when I think of something, I immediately want to know what's the impact on the earth, how far does it come from? So I'm not saying it's bad, it's actually great. And coconut oil, we do use sometimes, but I use it much, much, much less than I did at some point when it was touted as the marvel food, because it is a tropical food. And I know, for example, you might have read that it's becoming so popular that in certain areas they use monkeys to go up and down the trees all the time. And so we know that we're out of balance when we get to that. So meaning that I don't, when people ask me, I say, yes, that's fine. But there's no need to tout it as a wonder food. It has its, but we have many foods that grow around us, that are part of our environment, that are just as good. Meaning, like, for example, Didier does make dessert with coconut sometimes, and I eat it. It's not like it's a forbidden food, but certainly I don't consider it as a wonder food, and I try to limit its use and to use more things that are from the area.
Thank you. I get that.
You're welcome, Karen. It's so good to see you.
Hey, Liliane.
Hello.
I have to agree with Norma. I love the meditation. I hope you could record that at some time, and so we can have it, because it was just lovely, so relaxing. You mentioned about tropical fruit, so I was thinking about, for our immunity, vitamin C is a big need. So would citrus is considered tropical fruit?
Well, actually, I learned in Arizona that oranges do grow. There are certain oranges that grow there in the fall and winter. So I would say, if possible, maybe get some from there.
Okay.
Not as far. And to me too, it's like it's a remedy. So if you feel you need a big dosage of vitamin C and want to do, 10 days or whatever time, it's good. But vitamin C we have in so many different vegetables.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we tend to think that, and that's part of the marketing also, like parsley is a great source of vitamin C. There are green vegetables have vitamin C. There are many berries. For example, if you have dried berries from the summer, they're high in vitamin C. So there too, it's just to open up a little bit and realize that whenever we think we need something, all the time, that doesn't quite belong to where we live, there's a bit something imbalanced. So nothing wrong with that, but just explore, how you could, through other foods, enhance the vitamin C. Okay.
Okay.
Voila, that's about it.
Thank you. Thank you for offering this. It's wonderful.
You're very welcome. That's my pleasure. My pleasure, because I love these topics and I love where they take us.
So I'm looking at the chat, and it looks like there are a couple of written questions. One of which is from Mr. A. And Mr. A asks, what's that kimchi book called? I think the one you mentioned.
Actually, I'm sorry, I did not write it down. I could send it to Tejo, but if you look book on kimchi, and Google it, you'll find it. The woman is a doctor and she's from South Korea, and I do have that book, but right now I don't have it right in my mind. So what I can do is send it to Tejo, and she can put it on the website. But again, I'm sure you can find it easily, and it's a great book. It's and after you read it, you really do want to make kimchi. So we've invited friends, and we're inviting family members, and we all make sauerkraut and kimchi together. which is a fun way of spending, some Sunday afternoons.
Yes, yes, I love kimchi personally too.
Yeah,
Love
yeah,
it spicy.
yeah. And you can make it as spicy or as light as you want. And what I like, she gives recipes, even, some types of kimchi with fruit. And so Didier made some where he put some pear, and pear is great for the lung. And she is very convincing in the health benefits of kimchi. And so people sometimes are hesitant because of the spices, but again, you can make it light. Just make sure if you buy some that there are no, uh, colors, artificial colors, because unfortunately in Asian stores, often you find some, with E100 to give a red color meaning, and chemicals. So it's a fun thing to do by yourself. It's it takes one afternoon maybe with some friends, but then you can make big quantities, just like sauerkraut.
Thank
So
you.
I relay that information.
And Mr. A also asks your thoughts on tapping as opposed to acupuncture.
To what? About what?
Tapping is in comparison to acupuncture.
I'm not quite sure what tapping means. Is it
I'm not sure either.
just um,
Maybe the
pressure?
pressure point.
Pressure or pressure points? Those are all good. Those are really all good. And the great thing is that you don't need to have a practitioner all the time, so you can have some independence to do it. Acupuncture, I think, is of course deeper, and actually talking about the lung really made me understand even better what acupuncture does. Is we work with electromagnetic energy through the needles, the metal of the needles. So it's just a different technique. And the advantage of acupuncture too is that you can do many points at the same time. So you can organize a treatment, by using, I don't know, 6 different points. But point stimulation, and whether it's called tapping or acupressure, of course, those are fantastic. And I think that maybe that could be the topic of another, another webinar, a few points to do, like for the lungs, for the immune system, how to, and they're very, very efficient when you do it, with acupressure. So that's great. Acupuncture, maybe, I don't even know if we can say more effective. It's just that with acupuncture, it takes a shorter time, because sometimes if you do acupressure, you need to stay on a point for quite a while. It can be, if the person is receptive, it can be 5 minutes or a few minutes, but it could be also as long as 20 minutes. So that means that if you want to do, 5 or 6 points, it can take a long time. So acupuncture is faster, more convenient. But in terms of effectiveness, with Qigong, with acupressure, it can be just as effective as acupuncture. I just saw another message coming up.
Yeah, and I just want to read Mr. A's message, or if you want to read it, just because I don't want to.
No, I don't see it. So
misinterpret it by paraphrasing.
Go ahead, because I don't see it.
Okay. He says, or Mr. A says, "Hi, Liliane. I miss you and Didier a lot. It's so nice to hear your voice, listen to your wisdom, be a part of this, and share time and space. Here's a few questions I wrote down while you talked. What's that kimchi book called? What's your thoughts on tapping as opposed to acupuncture? Is your book available in English? I understand and believe in what you said about Taoism and looking into the past teaching to find hidden treasures. I do, however, as I found in my research in many modalities and methods, that a lot of what was taught is both antiquated and wise. So much what is told and taught in these old traditions was right for their time, but we live in such different times. And again, a lot of what was taught, I've found, is still as wise for this time, but a lot isn't. Have you noticed that in TCM in particular? And I do want to learn about Taoism. Any suggested resources to start with? Lastly, what's your
Okay.
take on calories and getting enough? I suspect the Chinese don't count.
Okay, so that's a big question. I could not, in a way, agree more. You know, and the title of my book in French is Chinese Medicine: The Treasures of Chinese Medicine for Today's World. Meaning that that's one thing I have had to heart to do. And what I like is the guidance that it gives us in an ecological understanding of the body. But in TCM, there are many things I don't take, I don't do, things that are things indeed that don't correspond to our time. And there are indeed also many techniques that we have today. For example, I did not talk much about that, essential oils, you know, they are old essential oils, but today we have such an incredible treasure and you don't use that much in Chinese medicine, and I use it a lot. There are many things, and you know, even electrical things or tuning forks for acupressure point. There are all kinds of things that have opened and that indeed we can explore and find what resonates with us. In terms of food too, there are some basic principles I find very helpful. And there are also things I totally don't agree with, and certain things I refuse to even accept. For example, there are remedies I used the bile of bears, you know, and the bears are kept in cages with an open wound all the time to get their bile. That's totally barbarian and doesn't have a place today. So definitely, I'm there are many things I don't agree with and things that are antiquated. Taoism, it's a little bit difficult to even summarize, because Taoism, a bit like Buddhism, went through such transformations over time. So some of the, you know, the Yellow Emperor is a good source in terms of Chinese medicine. I have translated my book into, I mean, I got my book translated into English, but it has not been published yet. So I hope to find a publisher and get it in the States as well. But that was really my thinking, was to look at what in Chinese medicine is so helpful today, especially regarding ecology, regarding, you know, guidance to foods, and at the same time not be afraid to adapt it to today, you know, to and even to, you know, like for example in TCM, emotions don't have a big it is said in Taoism that emotions are a cause of disease, but modern Chinese or the TCM tradition, they don't feel very comfortable with that, so they don't go there, not very much. So I agree with what you said, basically. Yeah. In terms of resources to here too, I'll maybe give a list of a few things to Tejo. And I see a message from Caroline, who says, I found a book called The Kimchi Diet. Yes, from Dr. Susan Bennett. Yes, that would be the one. That would be the one. So, yeah. All right, any other question or comment? So to finish then, if there are no more questions, what I would like to of course encourage you is to give a donation to Tejo and to Great Tree for organizing this. Thank you, Norma. Thank you, Trey. And one thing that we have agreed upon is that I have a little booklet, maybe a couple of you might have it from the past, but a little booklet called Lung Energy Cooking for the Lung. And so Tejo will send it to you. Tejo or Norma or whoever helps with that will send you that booklet as a thank you gift for your donation as well. So voila, and it's good to see friends. I hope we do this again. Hope to see you again. It's just the beginning of a reconnection.
Yes, I hope so.
I'm very moved by that. Very moved to see you.
Same here. Same here.
Thank you. And I hope you will offer again.
Okay, thank you, all of you. And look forward to keeping in touch. And good luck. I mean, we need good luck for our confinement, and the States, good luck for everything that's unfolding. And you have no idea how Didier and I are just glued to the news to know what's happening, and can't wait to go back.
Yeah,
Will you go back to Arizona?
We don't know yet. Maybe Arizona. Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you so much. And
Merci.
Merci
just want to-
beaucoup.
Merci beaucoup.
I want to
Merci.
share quickly that in the chat, I have posted a link where you can share some Dana if you can. And somebody said the first link wasn't working, so I posted a second link, and that will take you to the Great Tree page, and then you can click the PayPal button from there. And I've also posted Tejo's email if you are interested in the booklet.
And she said also that and you said too, Trey, that the recording would be on the website. So,
Yeah, that's correct. So this was recorded, and we'll do some editing, and somebody more tech savvy than myself will do that and get it posted online. So we'll be able to experience that wonderful meditation and everything again.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
So I wanted to add that I think if you go to their website there, because they said the link wasn't working, somebody put that in the chat, the first or the second, that you can find a place to donate on their website. So just try that. Thank you.